Exodus chapter 11. And the Lord said unto Moses, Yet will I bring one plague more upon Pharaoh. Remember, Pharaoh's had all of his gods knocked off, but one. God said, I guess it's going to take the whole shebang to get this guy's attention. And upon Egypt, afterwards he will let you go hence. When he shall let you go, he shall surely thrust you out hence altogether. Not just, okay, you can go, but get out of here. Speak now in the ears of the people, and let every man borrow of his neighbor, and every woman of her neighbor, jewels of silver and jewels of gold. This sounds odd at first. Go tell everybody to go borrow things from their neighbor, which would be the Egyptians. They're never going to return it. Now keep in mind, the Egyptians had had these folks in slavery for 215 years. They were in Egypt 430 years altogether, but in slavery for 215 years. I guess God looked at that as justifiable compensation. I don't know, but the people argue about that. But God did tell them, go borrow the stuff from the neighbors. That's what he told them to do. And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. Moreover, the man Moses was very great in the land of Egypt, in the sight of Pharaoh's servants, and in the sight of his people. You know, Moses' life was amazing. When he was born as a baby, he was hated. All the baby boys were hated. They were going to kill him. His mother had to put him in a basket in the Nile River, which is full of crocodiles. He's only about 3 months old. He's put in a basket in a river. It had to be heartbreaking for Mama. Pharaoh's daughter finds him, takes him home, and then pays Moses' mama to raise him until he's about 3 years old. So Mama gets paid to raise her own child. How many of you got paid to raise your kids? Okay. So Moses' life is like up and down, up and down, up and down. Then, when he turns 40, he's been raised in the palace with the best of everything. He turns 40, and he sees an Egyptian beating up one of the Hebrews, and so he goes and he kills the Egyptian, and ends up having to flee for his life. So here he is, the prince of Egypt, fleeing over to today's Saudi Arabia. There in Saudi Arabia, he starts working as a shepherd. I'm sure a guy who'd been raised in the palace didn't know much about taking care of sheep. But he got a job. Now he's back down at the bottom. Sometimes God puts you up at the top and sometimes down at the bottom. Sometimes, you know, you're the president of the corporation and the next day you're shoveling poop in the cow pasture, you know. Up and down, up and down. So Moses is, for 40 years, he's out there in the backside of the desert. Then the Lord appears to him in a burning bush. Says, go back and talk to Pharaoh. He goes back, talks to Pharaoh, goes through all these plagues, and finally, Moses was very great in the land of Egypt. When he left Egypt, he was not very great, was he? They were going to try to kill him. And your fortunes may go up and down with your life too. So don't hang on that too much. Things are going great, yay, enjoy it. But keep in mind, it'll change, okay? The next day might be worse. And Moses said, Thus saith the Lord, about midnight will I go out into the midst of Egypt, and all the firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die. From the firstborn of Pharaoh that sitteth upon his throne, even unto the firstborn of the maidservant that is behind the mill, and all the firstborn of beasts. Egypt has already lost all their crops. They've already lost a whole bunch of cows and sheep, the ones that were left out in the field. Remember, some of them might have brought them in the house. So now the firstborn of all the animals is going to die. These people are going to be really poverty-stricken when God gets done with them. And sometimes God tries to get our attention to do something, and we don't want to listen. And he has to keep beating us down, 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 down. Is he going to have to take away everything from you to get your attention? I know some people, they just simply won't listen. God's got to keep taking stuff away, keep taking stuff away. And finally, it's like, oh, they finally listen. Pharaoh, you've bankrupted your whole country. You've destroyed everything. Mighty Egypt is now a third world nation. They don't have any crops. A bunch of the animals are dead and a bunch more are about to die. Anyway, verse 6. And there shall be a great cry throughout all the land of Egypt, such as there was none like it, nor shall be like it any more. But against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog move his tongue, against man or beast, that ye may know. God's doing this again. Hey, this is so that you can know. Here's Moses telling Pharaoh, Pharaoh, This is what's going to happen. Midnight, the death angel's coming through, going to kill the firstborn, every child, including your son, Pharaoh. And he's doing this so that you can know how that the Lord doth put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. And all these thy servants shall come down unto me, and bow down themselves unto me. Imagine Moses telling this to Pharaoh. All your servants are going to bow to me. Saying, get thee out, and all the people that follow thee, and after that I will go out. And he went out from Pharaoh in a great anger. And the Lord said unto Moses, Pharaoh shall not hearken unto you. This guy won't listen. How many of you ever met somebody who just simply will not listen to good counsel? It doesn't matter what you say, they're not, you know already, they're not going to listen. They're not going to get it. You know what I'm talking? There are people like that. This one is, it's not going to do any good to tell him. He won't listen or she won't listen. God said, Moses, Pharaoh's not going to listen. Why? That my wonders may be multiplied in the land of Egypt. What God did in Egypt is still being talked about today. They still have annual feasts in Israel over this, what happened in Egypt. The Passover. It was symbolic of all sorts of things. Jesus Christ, the Passover lamb. I mean, much of Christianity is based on what happened in Egypt. This 3,400 years ago, about 1400 BC. And Moses and Aaron did all these wonders before Pharaoh, and the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart so that he would not let the children of Israel go out of his land. End of chapter. If you look at the book of Psalms, actually all through the Bible, you see a lot of places where it talks about what happened this night when God killed the firstborn. Psalm 105, he smote also all the firstborn of their land, the chief of all their strength. Psalm 135, who smote the firstborn of Egypt, both of man and beast. Psalm 136, to him that smote Egypt in their firstborn, his mercy endureth forever. All through the Bible, they're talking about that. We're still talking about it tonight. What happened 3,400 years ago? God was going to do all this so that you can know. I think sometimes God, he wants us so badly. He wants us to know. He wants us to know him in a personal way. He wants us to know him and his great power. And keep track of what happens in your life, and get off by yourself someplace and say, Lord, could you help me to get to know you? Sometimes I'll pray. I'll get alone by myself and I'll pray. I just say, Heavenly Father, I just stop right there. I say, Kent, do you know who you're talking to? Do you have any idea who you're talking to? I don't think I have any idea who I'm talking to. We're talking about God. Heavenly Father. That's enough right there. Psalm 59. God does some things so that we can know. And it's good just to take time to remember. Today was a great day. I mean, this is just the beginning of what our camp is supposed to be like. We're going to see this go exponential from here. How many got a taste today of why we've been doing all this? Like, oh, now I see why we've been doing all this. Yeah. It's like, wow, this is changing lives. That's what we want to do. And it's good just to take time to remember. Just get alone and say, God, remember. But see, the devil's good at keeping us so busy with external distractions. We got to have the video games or the TV or the music. Or I know some people, they always have music on. I am not against music. But I'm against keeping your brain occupied where you can't think for yourself. I don't want somebody else to do my thinking for me. Shut everything off. Just get quiet and just talk to the Lord. David said in Psalm 59, I will sing of thy power, yea, I will sing aloud of thy mercy in the morning, for thou hast been my defense and refuge in the day of my trouble. Unto thee, O my strength, will I sing, for God is my defense and the God of my mercy. David committed some pretty bad sins, adultery and murder, pretty high on the list. And God forgave him when he asked him, and God used him in a powerful way. David had a tender heart. People that have messed up pretty bad and God forgave them and they really want to serve God. Now sometimes, some people you see really zealously trying to serve God, they really have a tender heart because they went through the meat tenderizer. God had to tenderize them. One of the lessons I teach when we stop by the quince tree up there. How many saw the quince tree up at the top of the property? I say the quince fruit looks kind of like an apple. It has a texture somewhere between an apple and a bowling ball. Hard as a rock. How many have eaten some of the quince right off the tree? I say, but if you cook them at 4 million degrees for 7 years, they soften up a little bit, and you can make quince jelly, quince jam, and quince pie. How many of you have had to be softened up a little bit by the Lord getting kind of rough with you to soften you up a little bit? Okay, pay attention, son. David said, I will sing of thy power. I want to thank you all for all the work you do around here, but I'd like you to take time tonight. We're going to quit early here. Get off by yourself, no distractions, no TV, no music, and just think about what God has done for you, and think about his promises of what he promised he's going to do. We are headed into a time soon of tribulation. It's going to get bad. Hang in there. For years I taught we get out of here before the tribulation. It's not true. I wish it was. Read my book, What on Earth is About to Happen, for heaven's sake, if you want more on that. We're here for the tribulation. But sing of the mercies of the Lord. Why did God allow the Jews to go through all this tribulation? So that Pharaoh could know. And some of Pharaoh's people listened and got converted. Would a couple of years of misery and trouble for you, if God's going to reward you for taking it forever, if you put up with this for a few years, I'll reward you forever, God says. Plus, you're going to bring more people into the kingdom, people that never would have been saved. While I was in prison, I led nearly 800 men to the Lord, wrote 37 books. I don't want to do it again, but God used it in a great way. Take some time and say, Lord, thank you. Thank you for just being who you are. Take time to remember. Every year the Jews have these feasts so that they can remember what God did. And a couple of them go back right back here to Pharaoh. You remember how God brought his people out? Wow, that's a rare thing. They're still talking about it. Today, yesterday or today, is there one of their Jewish feasts? Is it today? The Feast of Tabernacles?
The 13th, yeah.
Yesterday.
Feast of Tabernacles.
Yeah. They're still talking about it, wandering around in the wilderness, getting out of Egypt.